Fire ripped through the sky as the mountain split open. Stone exploded outward, crushing beast soldiers mid-roar, their armored bodies thrown like broken dolls across the battlefield. A shockwave flattened forests, snapping ancient trees as if they were reeds. And at the center of the chaos, a horned shadow tore free from glowing chains carved into the earth itself. The creature roared, not with sound, but with force, and the air screamed as if reality were being peeled apart. Amani ran. She sprinted through smoke and falling ash, bare feet slamming against cracked stone, lungs burning as something vast and furious chased her presence. Behind her, the ground melted. Claws the size of towers ripped through the earth, missing her by inches. She didn't look back. She couldn't. The moment she did, she knew she would stop running, and stopping meant the end of everything. The sky turned red. Not sunset red, blood red. The moon fractured into burning shards, raining fire as beast warriors screamed orders in languages older than memory. Wolves howled, tigers roared, ravens burst into the air in black clouds, their wings slicing through smoke. "Amani!" someone shouted. She didn't know who, she only knew the voice was afraid. A blast of heat threw her forward. She hit the ground hard, skin scraping stone, breath knocked from her chest. Before she could rise, the world went silent. Too silent. The battlefield froze. Ash hung unmoving, fire paused mid-flicker. Even screams died in open mouths. Then a presence descended, slow, heavy, inevitable. Chains glowed beneath the ground, ancient symbols burning brighter with every step it took toward her. The beast spoke for the first time in centuries. "You should not have touched me." The world shattered. The scream ripped out of Amani's throat as she bolted upright in her bed. Darkness pressed around her small apartment, broken only by the faint orange glow of Lagos traffic outside her window. Her chest heaved, sweat soaked her clothes. Her hands shook violently as she stared at her palms, half expecting to see blood, ash, or glowing runes carved into her skin. Nothing. Just skin, just silence. But the smell of smoke lingered. She swung her legs over the bed and stood, unsteady, heart pounding like it had been chased across worlds. This wasn't the first time. For weeks now, the dreams had been escalating, each one sharper, louder, closer. They no longer felt like dreams. They felt like memories clawing their way back. She staggered to the mirror. For a moment, her reflection looked normal. Brown skin, braided hair loosened by sleep, wide eyes rimmed with exhaustion. Then something flickered behind her pupils. Gold. She gasped and stepped back, slamming into the dresser as the light vanished. "No," she whispered. "Not again." The apartment lights flickered, once, twice, then every electronic device in the room powered off at once. Silence rushed in, thick and heavy. Amani's phone vibrated on the table. She stared at it. It shouldn't be on. Slowly, she picked it up. No signal, no battery indicator, just one message glowing on the screen. "Run when the moon bleeds." The phone cracked down the middle, screen dying in her hand. Outside, car alarms began screaming. Amani rushed to the window. The moon hung low in the sky, unnaturally large, its surface splitting with glowing red fractures. People in the streets pointed upward, shouting. Some fell to their knees, others ran. The air bent. Not figuratively, literally. The space in front of her twisted inward, folding like burning paper. Wind exploded through the apartment, dragging books, clothes, and furniture toward the growing rip in reality. Amani screamed as invisible hands yanked her forward. She grabbed the window frame. Too late. The world turned inside out. She landed hard on wet stone, gasping as cold air filled her lungs. The smell hit her instantly. Blood, fur, smoke, and something wild that raised goosebumps across her skin. Rain poured from a sky crowded with unfamiliar constellations and a massive, cracked moon glowing crimson. Amani rolled onto her side and retched. Shouts erupted around her. She barely had time to push herself up before a massive shadow loomed overhead. A blade slammed into the stone inches from her head. She froze, staring up into glowing amber eyes set in a wolf-like face framed by battle armor. Human, on your knees. All around her, beasts stepped out of the rain. Wolves, tigers, hybrids with horns, tails, wings, claws. Their gazes locked on her with hunger, fear, and something darker. The ground trembled. Amani raised her hand slowly, heart racing. "I don't know how I got here." A tiger warrior sniffed the air, eyes widening. Elders. Her scent. The wolves backed away. The rain stopped. From the crowd, tall figures emerged, draped in bone and metal, their eyes glowing with ancient authority. The elders. They didn't speak at first, they only stared at Amani as if she were a weapon left unsheathed. One of them finally spoke, voice layered and wrong. "The bound one has returned." Murmurs rippled through the beasts, fear spread like wildfire. Amani swallowed. Bound to what? The elder lifted a clawed hand and pointed toward the black mountains in the distance, where lightning flashed without thunder. "To the beast who ends worlds." The ground split open. A roar rolled across the land, deep enough to shake bone and soul alike. In the distance, chains ignited beneath the earth, glowing symbols tearing through stone as something massive strained against its prison. Amani staggered as pain exploded across her left shoulder. She cried out, dropping to her knees as burning lines carved themselves into her skin, forming a mark that pulsed with golden light. The beasts recoiled, some screaming, others falling flat as if pressed down by an unseen force. The elder's eyes widened in horror. "She's activating the seal." "I don't know how to stop it." Another roar answered her, closer now, louder. The mountain cracked. From within the abyss, eyes opened, vast, furious, and locked on her alone. The elder whispered, voice shaking, "You were never meant to wake him." The chains snapped. The sky tore open, and somewhere deep within the darkness, the beast smiled. Far beneath the battlefield, the first chain broke completely, and the end of the world finally remembered her name.
The first thing Amani felt was heat, not the gentle warmth of firelight, but a suffocating pressure that wrapped around her lungs and skin like invisible hands. She drifted in and out of consciousness as she was carried through winding stone corridors, her body bouncing lightly against furred shoulders. Voices echoed around her, low, sharp, urgent. She's still breathing. The mark is stable, for now. Bind her wrists. If she wakes... Amani gasped and sucked in air, eyes snapping open. She was slammed onto cold stone. Her vision swam as torchlight flared overhead, illuminating a massive chamber carved deep into the mountain. Runes burned along the walls, pulsing faintly, as if responding to her presence. Beast warriors lined the edges of the room, weapons drawn, muscles tense. Some stared at her with naked fear, others with something dangerously close to reverence. Her wrists were shackled in glowing cuffs that hummed softly against her skin. When she moved, pain lanced up her arms, sharp enough to steal her breath. "Don't fight them," a calm voice said. Amani turned her head. A tall woman stood near the center of the chamber, her form half human, half something else. Smooth, dark skin blended into silver fur along her arms and neck. Her eyes were pale, almost white, and ancient knowledge sat heavy in them. "I'm Seer Min Jae, and you are very far from home." Amani swallowed. "Where am I?" "The beast world, and at the center of a prophecy we spent centuries trying to erase." Before Amani could speak again, the mountain shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. Several warriors snarled, bracing themselves as a deep, resonant pulse rolled through the stone beneath their feet. It wasn't a roar this time. It was slower, controlled, aware. Min-jae's jaw tightened. He knows you're awake. Amani's heart stuttered. Who? The seer didn't answer immediately. She lifted one hand, and the runes on the walls flared brighter, forming images, visions etched in burning light. A horned shadow standing over a broken sky, cities sinking into fire, beasts kneeling in blood. Amani's breath came faster as the images shifted, focusing on one figure again and again. Massive, winged, bound in chains that glowed brighter than stars. The destroyer, Seer Min-jae said, softly. Ha-Rin. The name struck Amani like a blow. Pain exploded behind her eyes. The chamber twisted as memories, not hers, yet intimately familiar, flooded her mind. Chains biting into flesh, silence deeper than death, rage held in check by something fragile and fading. Her scream tore through the chamber. The cuffs on her wrists cracked. Warriors surged forward, weapons raised, but Min-jae shouted a command, her voice slicing through the chaos. Hold! The cuffs flared, reforging themselves just as Amani collapsed, gasping, sweat soaking her clothes. Min-jae stared at her, fear finally breaking through her composed exterior. The bond is already forming, she whispered. That shouldn't be possible. Amani forced herself upright, trembling. I don't want any bond. I want to go home. Silence fell. Then laughter echoed from somewhere deep beneath the chamber. Low, amused, dangerous. The stone floor split down the middle with a deafening crack, and heat poured upward as a vast presence surged closer. Runes ignited across every surface, screaming warnings in ancient tongues. Min-jae backed away slowly. You don't understand. Home may no longer exist the way you remember it. The laughter grew closer. Amani felt it then, a pull in her chest, sharp and undeniable, dragging her attention downward, toward the abyss beneath the mountain, toward him. No, she whispered, shaking her head. No, no. The floor sealed itself again with a thunderous slam. The laughter faded. For now. They didn't leave her alone. Guards rotated in shifts, never fewer than 6 at a time. The cuffs stayed locked. Every time she drifted towards sleep, whispers brushed the edges of her mind, murmuring in a language she didn't know, but somehow understood. You came back. Amani jolted awake, heart racing. Stop! Just stop! But the voice only laughed softly, retreating like smoke. On the 3rd day, at least she thought it was the 3rd, time felt strange beneath the mountain. The elders returned. This time, they brought weapons forged from light and bone. Min-jae stood apart from them, tension radiating from her posture. This is a mistake, she said quietly. Provoking the bond will only accelerate. We cannot risk her existence, one elder snarled. Every second she breathes, the seal weakens. Amani's heart thundered. You're talking about killing me. The elder's eyes met hers without remorse. We're talking about saving worlds. They began the ritual. Runes flared beneath her feet as chains of light burst from the floor, wrapping her legs, her torso, her throat. Pain tore through her body as the markings on her shoulder burned brighter, resisting the magic clawing at it. Amani screamed. The mountain answered. The chamber shook violently as something slammed at the seal below. Once, twice. With each impact, cracks raced across the runes like spiderwebs. The elders shouted, pouring more power into the ritual. Hold the binding! Amani's vision blurred. She felt herself slipping, consciousness tearing loose as the pain peaked. And then something snapped. Not the chains, her fear. Amani stopped screaming. The chamber went eerily quiet as she lifted her head, eyes glowing gold. The chains froze. The elders stared. Amani spoke, and her voice carried weight it never had before. Enough. The runes shattered. A wave of force erupted outward, hurling elders and warriors alike into the walls. Weapons clattered across stone. The chamber cracked as power surged from her body, wild and unrestrained. Min-jae hit the ground hard, coughing, eyes wide. I didn't mean to, Amani whispered. Laughter rolled through the mountain again, closer than ever. Proud. The floor split open for a third time. Fire and darkness poured upward as a vast cavern glowing with molten light and ancient symbols revealed itself. Chains stretched across it, many already broken. And there, rising slowly from the depths, was Ha-Rin. Even bound, he was terrifying, towering, wings folded tight against his back, horns curving toward the ceiling. His eyes locked on Amani with an intensity that stole her breath. Not hunger, recognition. "You remember how to command," he said, his voice echoing directly inside her skull. Amani staggered back, heart slamming against her ribs. "I don't know you." He smiled. "You will." The mountain trembled violently as another chain snapped. The elders screamed in terror. Min-jae pushed herself up, shouting, "Run! Both of you, run!" Amani hesitated for a half-second. Then the abyss exploded. Ha-Rin surged upward, tearing free from the remaining chains in a storm of fire and shadow. The chamber collapsed as stone rained down, warriors scattering in panic. Without thinking, Amani ran. The ground buckled beneath her feet as Ha-Rin moved behind her, not chasing, guarding. A blast of fire incinerated falling debris before it could touch her. They burst out of the mountain into rain and chaos. The beast city burned. Beast clans clashed in the streets, some trying to flee, others turning on one another in fear and desperation. The sky pulsed crimson as cracks spread across the moon. Amani skidded to a halt at the edge of a cliff, breath ragged. "There's nowhere to go," she shouted. Ha-Rin stepped beside her, wings unfurling slowly. "There is, but once we cross it, nothing will ever be the same." Behind them, the mountain collapsed completely. Ahead of them, the horizon split open, revealing a tearing veil between worlds. Amani stared at it, heart pounding. "Tell me the truth," she said, voice shaking. "If I stay with you, will the world end?" Ha-Rin met her gaze, eyes burning. "Yes." The veil began to pull them forward, and Amani realized, with a sick twist in her chest, that part of her didn't want to resist. The veil swallowed them. Amani felt herself stretched thin, like her body was being pulled through a narrow crack while her soul lagged behind. Light and darkness twisted together, heat clashing with cold until sensation blurred into something unreal. She screamed, but the sound vanished the moment it left her mouth. Then she fell. She hit the ground hard, rolling across black sand that burned and froze at the same time. Her breath came out in ragged gasps as she pushed herself up, disoriented. The sky above her was wrong, vast and starless, layered with slow-moving clouds that glowed faintly from within, like embers trapped beneath ash. Ha-Rin landed behind her without a sound. The Deadlands stretched endlessly around them, a wasteland of cracked earth, jagged stone spires, and rivers of dull, molten light that pulsed like veins. Nothing grew here, nothing moved, even the air felt exhausted. Amani hugged herself, shivering. "Where are we?" "The place they erased," Ha-Rin replied, "where gods were buried and names were forgotten." She turned to him. Up close, he was even more unsettling. His massive frame radiated controlled power, wings folding slowly against his back. The fire in his eyes dimmed slightly as he looked at her, not softened, but focused. "You shouldn't be free. They were terrified of you." "They should be," he answered calmly, "but not for the reasons they believe." The ground trembled. Amani stiffened. "That didn't sound like you." It wasn't. The sand around them began to ripple, forming circular patterns that spread outward rapidly. From the shadows, shapes emerged, lean, angular creatures with too many joints and eyes that glowed a sickly blue. They crawled out of cracks in the earth, dozens at first, then hundreds, surrounding them in complete silence. Ha-Rin's wings flared. "Stay behind me," he said. "I'm not helpless," Amani snapped, though fear coiled tight in her chest. "Yet," he replied. The creatures lunged. Ha-Rin moved like a storm breaking loose. Fire erupted from his body as he tore through the first wave, claws ripping, wings slicing through hardened flesh. The air screamed with every strike. Bodies disintegrated into ash before hitting the ground. But more kept coming. Amani felt pressure building inside her chest again, the same sensation she'd felt in the chamber. It throbbed in time with Ha-Rin's movements, growing stronger with every blow he landed. One of the creatures broke through, leaping toward her with its mouth split open and possibly wide. "Stop!" Amani shouted. The word slammed into the air like a command. The creature froze mid-leap, its body locking rigid before shattering into dust. The others faltered, twitching, their glowing eyes snapping toward her. Ha-Rin glanced back sharply. Amani stared at her hands, breath hitching. I didn't. I just—" Another tremor shook the land. This one was deeper, slower. The creatures recoiled suddenly, retreating into the cracks they'd emerged from, vanishing as quickly as they appeared. Silence returned. Ha-Rin turned fully toward her now, studying her with something new in his gaze. "You're learning faster than you should," he said. "I don't want this. I don't want power that scares me." "You don't get to want or not want it. It already chose you." They traveled for hours across the Deadlands, though the sky never changed. Amani lost track of time, her body moving on instinct as exhaustion set in. She stumbled more than once, and each time, Ha-Rin caught her before she fell, his touch surprisingly gentle. Finally, they reached a stone structure rising from the wasteland, a broken temple half sunk into the ground, its surface etched with symbols that glowed faintly at their approach. Ha-Rin slowed. "This place remembers," he said. Amani frowned. "What does it remember?" "Us." The words sent a strange chill through her. Inside, the temple was dim and vast, its ceiling lost in shadow. Cracked pillars lined the hall, and at its center stood a circular platform carved with interlocking symbols, some familiar, others foreign, blending styles and cultures in a way that made Amani's head spin. As Amani stepped onto the platform, the symbols flared to life. Pain lanced through her skull. She cried out, collapsing to her knees as images slammed into her mind, visions overlapping, too fast to grasp. A woman standing beneath a burning sky, her skin marked with gold, a horned guardian kneeling before her, God screaming as chains wrapped around him. Amani gasped, clawing at the stone. "Make it stop!" Ha-Rin knelt beside her, one massive hand hovering just above her back. "This is where the truth was hidden. You can't run from it." Her voice shook. "Then tell me!" He hesitated. Then the temple answered for him. The symbols shifted, projecting scenes into the air around them, a civilization unlike any Amani had seen, beasts and humans living side by side, building cities that blended stone, light, and living earth. At their center stood two figures, her and him. "No," Amani whispered. "That's not me." "It was," Ha-Rin said softly. The vision continued. She saw herself, older, stronger, eyes glowing gold, standing before a council of gods. She spoke words that made the sky tremble, demanding balance, demanding choice. Ha-Rin stood behind her, wings folded, silent but resolute. The gods refused. War followed. Amani watched herself fall, pierced by light, her power tearing free as the gods screamed. She watched Ha-Rin roar, unleashing destruction in a fury born of grief. Chains descended from heaven, binding him as the gods rewrote the world. The vision ended abruptly. Amani collapsed forward, sobbing, her hands shaking violently. "They killed me." "They tried," Ha-Rin said softly. "They fractured your soul, scattered it across worlds, but some things can't be erased, only delayed." She looked up at him, tears streaking her face. "And you destroyed everything." His jaw tightened. "I destroyed them." "By destroying the world," she shot back. "Yes, and I would do it again." The admission hung heavy between them. The Deadlands shook violently. From outside the temple came a thunderous roar, followed by the clash of metal and magic. Amani scrambled to her feet as shadows fell across the entrance. Beast warriors stormed in, wolves, tigers, ravens, armed and furious. At their head stood Min Jae, her expression tight with urgency. "Amani, get away from him!" she shouted. Ha-Rin stepped forward, fire igniting along his wings. "You followed us." "You left a trail of broken reality," Min Jae snapped. "Did you think we wouldn't?" The warriors fanned out, weapons raised. Amani's heart pounded. "Stop! This isn't helping anyone." Min Jae locked eyes with her. "You don't understand what he is." "I understand enough," Amani said. "You lied to me." Min Jae's gaze flickered. "We protected you. You tried to kill me." The air grew tense, heavy with impending violence. Then the gods arrived. The sky above the broken temple split open, pouring blinding light into the hall. Massive figures descended, their forms shifting, impossible to fully comprehend, wings of pure radiance, eyes like collapsing stars. Every beast warrior dropped to their knees instantly. Min Jae bowed her head, trembling. Ha-Rin snarled, fire roaring to life around him. Amani stood frozen as a voice thundered through the temple, layered and absolute. "This cycle ends now." The light focused on her. "You were never meant to awaken. Your existence is an error we allowed once out of mercy. We will not repeat that mistake." Amani's fear burned into anger. "You murdered me!" "We preserved balance," the god replied coldly, "and we will do so again." Chains of light burst from the air, shooting towards Ha-Rin. He roared, slashing through them, but more kept coming, wrapping around his wings, his torso, dragging him backward. The ground cracked beneath the force. Amani screamed his name. Something inside her snapped. Power exploded outward, knocking warriors and gods alike back a step. The symbols on the platform flared violently as Amani stepped forward, eyes blazing gold. "You don't get to decide anymore." Her voice echoed with something ancient and vast. The gods recoiled. Ha-Rin stared at her in shock. The chains tightened anyway. Amani felt the pull then, stronger than ever. A choice forming, sharp and terrible. Save him, or save everything else. The temple began to collapse as reality strained under the weight of their confrontation. And Amani realized the gods weren't here to negotiate. They were here to erase her completely. The first god struck without warning. Light tore through the temple like a blade, slicing pillars in half as stone disintegrated into dust. Beast warriors scattered, some crushed instantly, others flung screaming into the collapsing hall. The air screamed under the force of divine pressure. Amani barely had time to react. Ha-Rin roared, straining against the chains binding him as fire erupted from his body, clashing violently with the god's light. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through the Deadlands, cracking the ground for miles. "Amani!" Min Jae shouted. "If you don't stop this, both worlds will—" Amani didn't hear the rest. Something inside her finally broke open. Not rage, not fear, memory. She stepped forward as the symbols beneath her feet blazed brighter than ever, the gold markings on her skin spreading like living fire. The collapsing temple slowed, falling debris hung suspended in the air, trembling. "Enough," Amani said. The word wasn't loud, but it carried. The god recoiled, wings flaring. "Impossible!" Amani lifted her hand. The chains around Ha-Rin shattered. He fell to one knee, gasping, then rose in a rush of flame and shadow, wings unfurling fully for the first time. The Deadlands shook as his true form emerged, vast, terrible, beautiful in its devastation. Together they stood. The gods reacted instantly. 3 descended at once, light spearing toward them from every angle. Ha-Rin leapt forward, intercepting the attacks, his body blazing as he tore through divine constructs with brutal precision. Every clash shook the horizon. Amani moved without thinking. She raised both hands, and the ground itself responded. Stone spires erupted upward, impaling one god through the chest of living light. It screamed, not in pain, but in fury as cracks raced across its radiant form. "You dare!" it thundered. "I remember," Amani replied. The battlefield descended into chaos. Beast warriors fled or fought desperately as gods and ancient powers clashed overhead. The sky fractured further, revealing glimpses of Earth, cities frozen mid-motion, oceans rippling unnaturally as the world strained toward collision. Min-jae watched in horror as the prophecy unfolded in real time. "This is it, the end we tried to prevent." Amani felt it too, the pull between worlds strengthening, reality thinning with every surge of power. She could feel Earth now, faint but undeniable, people screaming, skies darkening, balance unraveling. Ha-Rin landed beside her, blood, divine and burning, running down his arm. "If this continues," he said quietly, "everything breaks." Amani swallowed hard. "Then stop holding back." His eyes locked onto hers. "If I do that, I won't be able to stop." "Neither will they," she said, nodding toward the gods regrouping in the torn sky. "They won't let us walk away." For a heartbeat, they stood suspended between annihilation and surrender. Then Ha-Rin nodded once. He unleashed himself. Fire and shadow exploded outward, tearing open the sky completely. The deadlands ignited, ancient seals buried beneath the earth unraveling as forgotten powers awakened. The gods screamed as Ha-Rin tore through them, each strike rewriting the rules of existence itself. Amani felt the backlash immediately. Pain tore through her body as the bond surged violently, flooding her with power she could barely contain. She cried out, dropping to her knees as visions overwhelmed her. Earth collapsing, beast cities burning, oceans boiling under a broken sky. "This isn't how it ends," she whispered through clenched teeth. She forced herself upright. If Ha-Rin was destruction, then she would be control. Amani reached deep, past fear, past memory, into the fractured core of her soul. She found the trickster deity buried there, the creator who bent rules instead of obeying them. And she let it breathe. The air stilled. Ha-Rin froze mid-strike, eyes widening as invisible threads wrapped around him. Not chains, but something gentler, stronger. "Amani," Ha-Rin growled. "Stop." "I can't," she said softly. "Not anymore." She turned her power outward, weaving instead of breaking. The collapsing sky slowed. The rifts between worlds stabilized, barely, held together by her will alone. The gods felt it immediately. Their light dimmed. "What have you done?" one demanded. "I changed the game," Amani replied. She reached toward Earth and the beast world, pulling them apart. The effort was excruciating. Blood ran from her nose, her ears, her eyes, as the strain threatened to tear her apart from the inside. Ha-Rin struggled against her influence, panic flickering across his face for the first time. "You'll destroy yourself," he said. "Then remember me," she whispered. With a final scream, Amani pushed. The worlds tore free from each other in a violent snap, reality screaming as balance reasserted itself. The sky sealed shut, the gods hurled backward into the void beyond. Silence crashed down. The deadlands lay in ruins. Amani collapsed. Ha-Rin caught her just before she hit the ground, cradling her carefully in his massive arms. Her skin was cold, the golden markings fading rapidly. "No!" he whispered, lowering his forehead to hers. "You don't get to leave." Her eyes fluttered open weakly. She smiled faintly. "Looks like I finally chose." Around them, surviving beast warriors emerged cautiously from hiding. Min-jae approached slowly, awe and fear warring in her expression. She severed the convergence, but the cost. Amani's breathing slowed. The ground trembled again, not violently, but steadily, like a heartbeat restarting. Ha-Rin looked up sharply. Far above, beyond the sealed sky, something shifted, something ancient, watching. Amani's eyes snapped open, glowing brighter than ever. "That wasn't the end," she whispered. The Deadlands responded, and somewhere beyond reality, something answered her call. Amani's body burned and froze at the same time. She drifted in a place that wasn't darkness and wasn't light, suspended between breaths she no longer remembered taking. Sound came first, distant, warped, as though heard through deep water. A steady rhythm followed, slow and deliberate. A heartbeat. Not hers. Her eyes opened. She lay on black stone beneath a sky she didn't recognize. It wasn't torn anymore. It wasn't bleeding. It was smooth, endless, and impossibly quiet. The Deadlands were gone. In their place stretched a vast plain of obsidian glass, reflecting the stars like a mirror. Ha-Rin knelt beside her. His wings were folded tight, scorched and cracked at the edges. The fire that once wrapped his body burned low now, dim and unstable. When he saw her eyes open, something in him broke. "You're awake," he said hoarsely. Amani tried to move. Pain flared, sharp and immediate, anchoring her fully back into her body. She sucked in a breath. "I didn't disappear?" "No," he said. "You anchored yourself." She let out a weak, incredulous laugh. "That sounds dangerous." "It is," Ha-Rin replied, "for everyone." Memory rushed back in fragments, the gods screaming, the worlds tearing apart, the unbearable strain as she forced reality to bend instead of break. Amani pushed herself up slowly, leaning on her elbows. "What happened after?" she asked. Ha-Rin hesitated. "The gods retreated," he said, "but they weren't destroyed. They were displaced." Amani closed her eyes briefly. "So they'll come back?" "Yes." She opened her eyes again, calm settling over her face in a way that made Ha-Rin uneasy. "Then this was never about ending them." "No," he agreed. "It was about delaying them." Amani looked around. "Where are we?" "A threshold, a place between sealed worlds. It didn't exist before today." She frowned. "And now?" "Now it exists because you do." The weight of his words settled slowly, heavily. Before she could respond, the air rippled. Min-jae emerged from a fracture in space, stumbling slightly as she crossed into the threshold. Her fur was singed, her expression drawn with exhaustion and awe. "You're alive," she said, staring at Amani like she was seeing a ghost. "Barely," Amani replied. "What about the beast world?" "Stabilized. The clans are in chaos, but the sky has sealed. The moon is whole again." "And Earth?" Amani asked quietly. Min-jae's gaze dropped. "Earth remembers nothing." "Nothing?" Amani's chest tightened. "No beasts, no rifts, no red moon. History adjusted itself around the absence." She nodded slowly, absorbing that. "That's probably for the best." Min-jae took a hesitant step closer. "Amani, what you did, what you are now, changes everything. The gods won't tolerate this. A living anchor, a bonded destroyer." Ha-Rin's wings twitched. "Then they shouldn't come near her." Min-jae met his gaze steadily. "You can't protect her forever." "No," Amani said softly, "but I don't need him to." Both of them turned to her. She stood, legs trembling, but steady enough to hold her weight. The golden markings that once blazed across her skin were faint now, etched deep beneath the surface like scars that glowed only when she breathed. "I can feel it, the strain, the pull. I'm holding something open that wants to close." Min-jae swallowed. "If you let go." The worlds collide again. Or worse. Ha-Rin stepped toward her. "Then don't let go." She smiled sadly at him. "That's not how balance works." The ground beneath them pulsed gently, like a living thing responding to her presence. In the mirrored surface, Amani caught her reflection and froze. Her eyes weren't entirely human anymore. Gold threaded through the brown, swirling slowly, endlessly, like a galaxy trapped behind her pupils. She touched her face. How long do I have? Min-jae didn't answer. Ha-Rin did. Time doesn't apply to you the same way anymore. Amani let out a slow breath. That bad, huh? Before either of them could respond, the air shifted again, this time violently. The mirrored sky cracked. Not like before, not wide or chaotic. This rip was thin, precise, controlled. Light spilled through. Not divine. Something older. The pressure hit them all at once, forcing Min-jae to one knee. Ha-Rin braced himself instinctively, fire flaring weakly around his body. Amani felt it like a hand closing around her spine. A voice echoed through the threshold, low and amused. So this is where you've been hiding. Amani's blood ran cold. The rip widened just enough for a shape to emerge. Not fully, not yet. A silhouette formed against the light, tall and indistinct, its edges constantly shifting. I wondered who would dare rewrite the board. Imagine my surprise when I felt you holding the pieces together. Ha-Rin snarled. Step back. The presence laughed softly. Ah, the destroyer, still playing guard dog. Amani stepped forward despite the fear crawling up her spine. Who are you? The silhouette tilted its head. I am what comes after gods, what waits when balance fails too many times. Min-jae's eyes widened in terror. Amani, that's not... The presence surged forward suddenly, stopping just short of fully entering the threshold. The pressure intensified, cracking the obsidian ground beneath their feet. You can't maintain this forever, it said, to Amani, voice dropping. And when you fall, everything you love collapses with you. Amani clenched her fists. Then help me. Silence. Then laughter, genuine this time. Oh, little anchor, I don't help. The rip began to widen. Ha-Rin moved instantly, stepping in front of Amani, his wings spreading wide despite the strain tearing through him. You don't touch her, he growled. The presence regarded him with something like curiosity. You're fading. Ha-Rin didn't deny it. Amani felt it too, the bond between them thinning, stretched too far by what she'd become. Panic flickered through her chest. No, not yet. She reached for him instinctively, and the moment she did, the gold in her eyes flared violently. The threshold shook. The presence froze. Slowly, it leaned back. Well, the presence said, voice dark with interest, that changes things. The rip sealed abruptly, snapping shut and throwing them all backward as the pressure vanished. Silence crashed down. Ha-Rin collapsed to one knee, breathing hard. Min-jae scrambled toward him, stunned. Amani stood frozen. What was that? Min-jae whispered softly. Amani didn't answer immediately. She was staring at her hands. They were shaking. Not from fear, from power. Something new stirred beneath her skin, something that hadn't been there before the presence arrived. Something that felt like a door unlocking instead of a chain breaking. She looked up slowly, meeting Ha-Rin's gaze. They're not just afraid of you anymore. His expression darkened. They're afraid of you. Amani swallowed. Somewhere far beyond sealed skies and rewritten worlds, something ancient had noticed her, and it was waiting for her to fail. The mirrored ground beneath her feet pulsed again, stronger this time, like a countdown, and Amani realized the truth with chilling clarity. The world hadn't been saved, it had been postponed, and next time, she wouldn't be the only thing holding it together.
If you enjoy stories like this, don't let it end here. Subscribe so you don't miss other powerful stories like this.